Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We are back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. It is June 22nd, 2023. Current challenge is Rebirth Raven. It's a 1-week repeat. The required characters are Black Adam, Harley Quinn, and Lex Luthor, who can be had as cheaply as silver, bronze, and bronze in the store. Excellent starting point for newer players, which we like. Easy to get. Easy to meet requirements to unlock a pretty strong gold character. Rebirth Raven's passive is Demonic Pact. On tag-in, Raven siphons her opponent's power if it is more than hers. That's the first part. Second part is, if 2 Rebirth characters are on her team, she receives 3 times more power per critical hit. Her attack is 1300. Her health is 1350. She was last available August 25th, 2022. So, not the top stats, but they're actually really good and high, 1300 and 1350. And Rebirth Raven is the best. Okay, maybe she's not the best, but she is tied with Teen Titans Raven for being the best Raven. And she may not be the strongest or highest stat character, but her passive is so much fun to use. Stealing power is so good. The second part of her passive applies to hits against her, and it doesn't give 3 times the power. According to the wiki, it's only double. And that difference almost doesn't matter, because that power generation takes away from the best part of her passive, which is stealing opponent's power. And the more power you built up before you come on screen, or the more power you build up in general, the harder it is to steal power. Also, if you're blocking, hits against you are typically not critical. So in order to take advantage of this part of her passive where she generates more power per critical hit against her, you need to let the opponent hit you. And in multiplayer, the amount of power generation from getting hit is really low. So not blocking when getting attacked is a pretty useless strategy if all you're getting is double a really low amount of power. Now, if you're playing offline in single player mode where power generation is more when you get hit than when you do the hitting, it still isn't good strategy to take full damage on attacks by not blocking. And there are some passives and abilities that you struggle to take advantage of, and even when you get them to work, it isn't worth the effort that it took. That power generation part of her passive is exactly that. I mean, a bunch of other examples like Kandak Black Adam or Amikami Catwoman with a combo enter passive, those pretty useless too. If you want to take advantage of that really great power siphon, though, there's a couple things you need to watch out for. One is Astro Harness, which offers immunity to power drain when the invulnerability is active. And 2, LexCorp Gear, which does something funny. So even though having 2 pieces is supposed to reverse power drain, and it does, it gives your opponent power, Rebirth Raven will still get power. So it's a race at that moment to see who can use the power and do a special first. The problem is, a lot of times when that triggers, if the opponent has a full 3 bars because of the gear set, a super will always prioritize over a special. So this is the difficulty. She's so much fun to use. The hardest part of Rebirth Raven is that her passive makes us want to use her as the special specialist. So in that case, if you want to use her passive to do that, you don't give her power generating gear, because if you do, her passive was wasted. What you don't want to do is have teammates that will increase her power generation. And if you don't give her power generating gear, you don't always get power quickly, and you'll need to wait for the opponent to generate power that you can steal. Which means Rebirth Raven has to be a secondary special specialist, and you still need a more traditional primary special specialist with Tentu Totem Master's Death card. One thing that it's easy to lose sight of is she can act as a bit of a pseudo tank against specials. So on this team, you don't even need Astro Harness. We've got it on Hawkgirl. You don't need it. You just need to plan well enough that if someone is tagging in with 3 bars, you have Raven ready to steal all 3 bars of power. If you don't get trapped into the idea that she needs to do damage with her specials, she's still pretty effective, just for no other reason than for stealing the opponent's power. And it's a reason why you see Hawkgirl here. She's really useful, as she always is, on a team that relies on tagging in and out when you need to. And we are demonstrating a Rebirth Raven, Hawkgirl, and Static team with this week's recap. and Static is our special specialist. And the neat thing that we've talked about before is Static has a really incredible synergy with Rebirth Raven because his special one stuns every time, has multiple hits that give the opponent lots of power, and one special one is often enough to give the opponents a full bar of power. By stacking Cloak of Destiny and Necron Scythe on Raven like we did last week on Batman Ninja Batman, you really take advantage of Static stun on special one. Enchantress is a good third gear for Raven because it effectively acts as a special disabler. So all those times that Raven knocks out an opponent and someone else tags in with power, you've just bought yourself the time to bring in Static, stun the powered up opponent, and then bring Raven back in to steal that power. And of course, this only works if you got Hawkgirl Prime on your team. There's a reason we consider Hawkgirl, when people do tiers of the best cards, and S tier is above A, Hawkgirl is an S tier card. She is woefully underrated in most people's tier lists. We've got a playlist of teams where we've used Rebirth Raven in multiplayer teams, so you can see a bunch of history, but this footage you're watching is from today at the start of this week's challenge. So that is 161 weeks of a repeating pattern that first appeared May 2020 of 3 complete cycles of a 43-week challenge cycle, plus we are 32 weeks into the 4th cycle. If the pattern holds, next week will be Classic Scorpion. Reminder, there are still 23 challenge characters that are missing from that cycle. That means they have not been seen since before May 2020. This week's multiplayer reward is Flashpoint Deathstroke. His passive is Pirate Crew. Deathstroke has a chance on special attacks to be assisted by Flashpoint teammates. The more Flashpoint characters, the more attacks he gets on his combo ender. He's at 1240 attack and 1360 health. He was last available November 17th, 2022, and that is 129 weeks in a row of a consistent pattern. That's 4 complete cycles of a 31 reward sequence, and we're 5 weeks into the 5th cycle now. Unlike the challenge cycle, nothing is missing for multiplayer rewards. If the pattern holds, next week should be Batmobile. So, Deathstroke, what's there to say? He's got really good stats, not the top, but close enough. Just by being Flashpoint from nothing else, he's already one of the best cards because he can take advantage of Batman's crit damage boost, where a crit hit does twice as much damage as the crit hit of a non-Flashpoint Batman boosted character. And both elements of Deathstroke's passive are really great. You could gear him to be your basic damage specialist with all the extra combo ender hits. So normal damage of combos, if you do a tap combo, you do 2%, 2%, 2%, and then 3% if you get the combo ender. So that's percentage of your health, percentage of your attack. If you have no Flashpoint characters except for Deathstroke, you still do 2, 2, 2 instead of just the 3 at the end. You do 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3, 3. So you do effectively 18% of your attack stat in one tap combo with the combo ender. But if you have a full Flashpoint team, you will do 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3, 3, like you would with no Flashpoint, and then it adds 3, 4, 4. So you would do 29% of your attack stat as damage on a Flashpoint team if you used him as your basic damage dealer and did a tap combo with a combo ender, which is ridiculous. You do a huge amount of damage, you generate a huge amount of power. Nobody really compares that way. However, despite that, we prefer to use him as our special specialist because his special one becomes deadly enough from the specials assist part of his passive to knock out pretty much everybody, even if they have a revive, because it's a multi-hit special one. So, Blackest Night team, 4th World Gear set, not a problem because of that multi-hit special one. If you add League of Assassins Knives or Splash, he is just deadly. One of the few weaknesses is facing someone with Astro Harness, and weakness is still just relative, right? He doesn't have a one-hit knockout to bypass the Astro Harness invulnerabilities, which we can do easily with Rebirth Raven by, as you can probably see in a couple examples, you stack Cloak of Destiny and Necron Scythe, you do a special one against a stunned opponent, and the first hit of her special one is enough to knock somebody out and bypass all the invulnerabilities if they have Astro Harness. Now, with Deathstroke, since we're talking about Deathstroke and not Rebirth Raven, with Deathstroke, if you use Tantu Totem, it can help you wait out the invulnerabilities, but you need to be a little bit careful because Deathstroke's multi-hit special 1 will generate a lot of power for the opponent if they don't block while they're invulnerable. The only other sort of, I'm doing air quotes that you can't see. The only other weakness would be against the Red Sun Green Lantern team. The lack of critical hits, which is Red Sun Green Lantern's passive. So no critical hits brings a Flashpoint team back to Earth, since if you're not doing critical damage, the crit damage boost doesn't come into play. And that affects every other team fighting against a Red Sun Green Lantern team, but it feels like a bigger weakness for Flashpoint because of how far you drop, right? When you lose crit damage, it makes a much bigger difference on a team that will do, say, 500% damage compared to a team that only does 250% damage, reducing it back down to 100%. So it's really that you're losing a bigger advantage, not that they're actually that much weaker than another team. We've gotten away from using the Flashpoint team lately, not because it isn't good, because, it's great. We've just been playing around with each week's reward characters, trying to make something as good with the challenge characters, and we may be getting back to doing demos with the multiplayer rewards once we've gotten through the full complement of the challenge characters that are available. Okay, in the store, Scorpion Classic Bundle, $24.99. It's a corroborate include in next week's challenge. It comes with 100,000 credits. It does not unlock your store, so I wouldn't buy it. You're going to be able to get it next week for free. And next week, when you finish the challenge, you'll actually be able to buy more copies with power credits instead of real cash. And we've got a couple of other interesting bundles. The Ultimate Bundle Bringers of Justice, $125. Now, the caption says contains 10 of the best heroes, and they are pretty good. All of them are challenges, I should point out. I mean, you can take a look yourself. All of them are challenges except Dawn of Justice Batman, who was previously a random drop. If it weren't so expensive, it might be worth it just because you get such a nice variety of characters and the cost per character is pretty low, and Dawn of Justice Batman is otherwise really hard to get. But $125. I mean, when it was first released, it was $66, and then they bumped it up quickly a month later to $99, dropped it back down to $95, and then it's been sitting at $125 since then. The other interesting pack is also another expensive pack. It is the Ultimate Bundle Villains and Monsters. Both of these packs were last available January 2023, but the Bringers of Justice was actually, I think last month they had it again on middle of May. So that's a real quick turnaround time. It's just interesting. So usually they're in sync. Last month, the Good Guy pack came back. So same problem with the cost. It's $125. It was $66 when it started. It contains 10 of the best villains. That's what the description says. And I guess they're okay. What really helps, I guess, is there's 3 of them that are not challenge characters that are multiplayer rewards. So that makes it a bit more interesting because multiplayer rewards, it's not like you can ever unlock them in your store anyways. So that's Flashpoint Deathstroke, Blackest Night Doomsday, and Suicide Squad the Joker Unhinged. And we've got a second week of the Justice League pack that we talked about last week. We've got a bunch of other packs that have been around for more than a year, so we're not going to go into more detail with those. And what else we got? Phantom Zone is finished. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was, as expected, Raven, Superman, and the Arkham Knight. This coming weekend is probably going to be Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, and Martian Manhunter. There's a link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16, one of the mods, that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And this is where we normally talk about the glitches. And as far as the current glitches go, we will go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. But even if nothing changes, we do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. And most recently, that was our recap from June the 1st. You can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Glitches, linked in the description of this video and the eye in the top right corner. The only thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's Rebirth Raven challenge. And that's it. So this is where we like to give a big thank you to our patrons on Patreon. and that would be Alexis M, supporting us on the Your Message Here tier, Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, and Hoshi127, who are supporting us on the credited level, and a number of people whose names you see on the screen who have been kind enough to have donated to us and supported us at some point during this pandemic. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.